Kentucky basketball is still getting after it on the recruiting trail, and it's looking like Mark Pope has a lot of really solid options at point guard for the 2025 class.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be taking a look at four-star Acaden Lewis, the staff making a very serious push to land him. Kentucky's got some really good options at point guard for the 2025 class. Going to be talking about that and more, as well as some questions ESPN has about this upcoming season for the Cats. Can Mark Pope put these transfer portal pieces together quickly before the non-conference slate gets serious? And then to wrap up the show, going to be talking about what could be the next Kevin Durant. Kentucky is taking a look at the number one player in the 2027 class. What do we know about him? We'll break that down and more on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. And if you are watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribe there as well. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. You can go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Kentucky basketball still making a push for four-star guard Acaden Lewis. Now, we've talked about Lewis a couple of times here on the show already. Mikael Brown Jr., another high-profile point guard prospect that we've also discussed. Looks like Mark Pope and his staff really like their options at point guard for this upcoming cycle, and if they are able to land one of them, I think they'll be really excited about their backcourt for seasons to come. KSR released an article about this earlier today. Jacob Polachek, friend of the show, he's come on a few times. We need to have him on again here on the show here very soon to kind of break down what's going on with the Cats on the recruiting trail. But according to him, Kentucky basketball is making a strong push for Acaden Lewis with the full staff visiting. That's right. All staffers on Kentucky's staff did visit Acaden Lewis here just a couple of days ago, met him in Washington, D.C. On their trek to Sidwell Friends School. According to Jacob Polachek, the 6'1", 170-pound guard told KSR Plus that the pitch from Kentucky has remained the same. Lewis and the Kentucky staff spent the night talking about Kentucky's 2025 class and watching the New York Jets versus San Francisco 49ers Monday night football game. I have Christian McCaffrey in fantasy, and I was also monitoring that game up until kickoff, where it was announced that McCaffrey would not be playing, and so I kind of checked out, but I'm glad to see somebody else enjoying that game. This is what Lewis had to say. They really want me, and they see me as a key piece in this class that brings everything together. They think Jasper Johnson and I work really well off of each other. That's a key thing we'll get to here in a second. Malachi Moreno and I formed a bond over the top 100 camp when I blew up and got my Kentucky offer. We played in the Elite 24. I'm familiar with both of their games. It would be great for all of us to play together. According to Polachek, Jasper Johnson's commitment to Kentucky may have come as a surprise to many people, but it was not much of a surprise to Lewis. He saw it coming. He said, I already kind of knew, to be honest. He didn't tell me, but based on when we talked, I felt like he was going there. And then Polachek continues to break down how maybe Acaden would fit alongside Jasper Johnson, but I wanted to bring this up here quickly before we kind of dive into those notes and notes of my own. In case you don't know, Acaden Lewis, four-star guard, top 55 player nationally across the board, 6'2", 185 pounds, again, out of Sidwell Friends School in Washington, D.C., number 36 overall player, number 5 point guard, and number 1 player out of D.C., according to On3. Virginia, Georgetown, North Carolina, Michigan, various schools that have gotten involved in Lewis's commitment here, or excuse me, his recruitment, I should say. This is one of the best point guards in next year's class. He is just an all-around, get-it-done type of guard, and he's similar to Mikael Brown in watching his game as far as the ability to distribute, the ability to score, confident there as well, but he wants to be able to set up his teammates and really kind of work all around. And Acaden Lewis, according to Polachek, had some questions about the fit alongside Johnson. He wasn't even sure if he'd be able to take the Kentucky staff or talk to the Kentucky coaching staff following Johnson's commitment, and he said to Polachek, quote, "I thought thought it was me or him. Like if he committed, they wouldn't be able to take me anymore or vice versa. I think I could play with him well, to be honest. I had never played with him and never thought about playing with him until a couple of weeks ago. We played at Dame and it was seamless. We passed the ball. Neither of us was a ball hog. We got our shots up and we created for each other. We work really well off of each other. It's really hard to guard two lefties. And that's actually something that I wanted to bring up here before we kind of dive into how these two players kind of join alongside each other, how they could kind of mingle in the backcourt. Both these guys are left-handed. Jasper, a little bit longer, a little bit taller. I would play him at shooting guard. You'd play Lewis at point guard. Both these guys left-handed, though, and crafty with the basketball. Something that Lewis noted there is that they both got their shots up, but they also created for each other. Something that Jasper Johnson does really, really well is score in bunches. When he gets hot, he gets really, really hot, and it's hard to stop him. But if you're able to pair him with someone like Lewis, who also can knock down his fair share of shots, you can create with Johnson as well, who was originally, if I'm not mistaken, listed as a combo guard early on in his recruitment. Now I think he slid down to shooting guard, and he would probably play there in my mind exclusively. But forget about that. You have two guards here, left-handed, scorers, who can also pass the rock. If you can get that aspect of his game elevated to kind of meet Lewis as far as passing goes, that's a really tough backcourt to beat. Now, would you like Acaden to be a little bit taller, a little bit more physical? Maybe, but you like the scoring, you like the passing, you like where he's at that point guard position. He also talked about Malachi Marino, about how the transition or the addition with him would be seamless. He said Malachi is great. He has good hands, which is always something I look for in a big. I throw a lot of quick dimes and no looks, so I'm looking for a big who can catch those and is always looking for the ball. He plays hard, and he rebounds. Marino and Lewis are also getting along off the court, according to Polacek. That helps their chemistry as teammates. He's just a good dude, Lewis said. Malachi and I have good conversations. He's one of my friends. I could see myself playing with him as well, since I already have. According to Polacek, we'll wrap this up here. Lewis is looking to sign in early November, to commit in early November. I would highly encourage you guys, if you aren't looking already, over on KSR Plus, Jacob Polacek, friend of the show, does an incredible job over there breaking down Kentucky basketball recruiting. Would love for you guys to go check them out over there. They do a wonderful job giving Kentucky news and updates. It's usually, if it's something free that they provide, I'm giving it an update here on the show, and I'm crediting them because Polacek is all over everything Kentucky basketball recruiting. So Acaden Lewis, one of the best point guards in next year's class, I think fits really, really, really well with what Kentucky wants to do with Jasper Johnson and Malachi Marino. I think all three of these guys would work well with each other. You throw in Marino's high floor, his ability to pass, his ability to possibly shoot as well. You're starting to create a really strong core with an identity heading into 2025 and beyond. So let me know what you think in the comments below about Jasper Johnson, Acaden Lewis, Mikel Brown Jr., who we've discussed on the show. Do you think he would be a better fit here alongside Johnson and Marino? You can leave all of that in the YouTube comments below. All right, I want to talk here for a little bit about the ESPN Way Too Early Top 25. Kentucky basketball is inside it, just barely. And they have some questions about all of these teams, but they have a question about Mark Pope and this roster construction. Before we dive into all of that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Ultimate Football Head Coach. I want to take a moment to give you guys a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love just as much as I do. It's Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you actually imagine being the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats and leading them to more sound victories over South Carolina and the likes of which I don't think this coaching staff has seen as of late at home? It's really, really simple and easy, but also super detailed over on the app. You can recruit players, hire coaching staff, you can oversee training camps, handle school scholarships, you can control every single crucial detail. The UI is incredible, super simple to understand. Can you be able to handle the pressure of becoming a head coach? It's been super fun for me so far with my dynasty with the Kentucky Wildcats. It's completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline, and you can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for listeners of Locked On Kentucky. You can use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, that's all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will give you a significant boost and a strong start. Again, download the game and just visit ultimate-collegecfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com. Look it up on the App Store, ultimate-cfb.com. You can begin your coaching legacy today with Ultimate College Football. All right, continuing along here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. I want to remind you guys, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, hey, we're going to be here all season long. We're getting closer and closer to college basketball season. I'm super excited to break down this roster and games coming up very, very soon in the next month or half and a half or so. If you've got any questions about Kentucky football, Kentucky basketball, leave those in the comments and we will get to them for sure. Today, I want to get to a question here that ESPN has about the Wildcats and their upcoming roster. So ESPN put out a way too early top 25. They just updated it today, and they have Kentucky basketball ranked. They have them ranked number 23 now, albeit behind a lot of different SEC teams, some of which I question whether or not they should be ranked behind, but that's neither here or there. We won't focus on that today. What I want to focus on is the question ESPN asks. Now, they have a question for every single one of these teams that they have ranked about kind of what could be holding them back or what they wonder about heading into this season, right? And the question with Kentucky is, how long will it take Mark Pope to put the pieces together? And this is what they have to say. While there are other teams in the rankings that underwent rebuild, none were as significant as Kentucky's. 0 players returned to Lexington from last season, and Pope is bringing only 1 with him from BYU. There are a lot of intriguing players and ample experience on the Wildcats roster, but it could take time for them to mesh. And then they have a projected starting lineup: Kerr Kriisa, Otega Owe, Jackson Robinson, Andrew Carr, and Amari Williams. I'll just go ahead and say this. That's a lot better than the CBS Sports starting lineup projection that CBS Sports had here just a few weeks ago. Much better. I think Lamont's going to start at point guard, but everybody else I think is pretty straightforward there. Owe, Robinson, Carr, Williams, I think that's your starting 2 through 5. I think Lamont starts at the 1, but I think he'll split playing time essentially with Kriisa. But how long will it take for Mark Pope to put these pieces together? If you've listened to this show recently, you've heard me kind of talk about how excited I am to see these guys kind of gel and go out there and play an actual game, because I believe with their experience, they will be able to actually mesh things together. If anything, my big concern is can Kentucky kind of maintain what could potentially be a hot start, and can they focus on March whenever it gets there, and are they able to execute as such? I think this Kentucky team is going to have a very clear identity. I think they're going to get out in transition, play with tempo, and they're going to shoot a ton of threes. They're going to be a very high-octane offense, and I think they have the pieces to succeed through that. We've talked about all of these different guys. You can go through here, and the 4 of the starting 5, I think, fit this mold perfectly. Kerr Kriisa, one of the best shooters in the entire nation. Otega Owe, a really solid two-way player that was a good three-point shooter and also really solid just overall offensively with the Sooners. Jackson Robinson was the prized possession at BYU, 6th man of the year in the Big 12, led the team in scoring at 14.2 points per game. I think he's going to be a massive central piece on this year's squad with the Cats. Andrew Carr, another really solid stretch player who can step out to the three-point line and knock down outside shots, also a plus defender on top of really solid post moves. And then you have Amari Williams, who kind of fits into this Mark Pope system as well, because the big thing with Williams was the fact that he could go out there and he could pass really, really well. I think that's what Pope highlighted when discussing kind of what they were looking for in a big. He's physical, 3-time conference defensive player of the year at Drexel. You see across this starting 5, you see passing, you see shooting, you see everything that you want for a really solid high-octane offense, a high-floor offense, I should say. And then you have Kobe Brea coming off the bench also, who is objectively, I think, the best shooter returning in college basketball. You've got a lot to be excited about here. A proven identity with players that fit the mold almost perfectly. Now, you have questions, right? I have different questions about Mark Pope and this team. Can they be more sound defensively than Kentucky was a season ago? Can the rim protection actually step up there and make plays outside of just creating some blocks, which is what Kentucky had with their plethora of 7-footers last year? They had a lot of blocks, but their rim protection percentage-wise was really, really poor. My concern about Kentucky lies almost exclusively on that side of the ball. On top of maybe some rebounding concerns, I think Kentucky may be average there. I hope it's not an issue as we move down the road, but I don't necessarily think how long it will take Mark Pope to bring these pieces together is like the foremost question on my mind. Again, it's really more focused on the defense. I think that with their experience and with their chemistry, it seems that they have already gained this offseason. I think Kentucky's going to come out firing. Now, again, does that mean they will maintain that as the season goes on? I'm not sure. I think a lot of people are going to have to adjust once they finally see this Kentucky team on a court and they see how they want to operate. Of course, Pope's system has been splattered across the internet. Of course, coaches are going to be able to identify kind of how they may want to pick and choose to stop Kentucky's offense, but the personnel together is something that they have not seen. Duke, I think, is going to really see some things from Kentucky. Will Kentucky win that game? That's not a prediction that I'm making today, but I really do think Kentucky, as far as chemistry, as far as putting things together, I don't think it's going to take as long as people currently expect it to. I think the non-conference slate early will be utilized as kind of a showcase for what Mark Pope and company could do for seasons to come. I'm excited about this upcoming season. I think Kentucky's going to get off to a hot start. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is ESPN's question valid? I think it is, but it's not like the top priority for me. You can leave all of that in the YouTube comments below or at Locked On UK if you want to go there as well. All right, I want to wrap up the show here talking about what could potentially be the next Kevin Durant. He has been offered by Kentucky basketball, and that is Baba Olatoden. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, Oladoten, excuse me. Before we dive into that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. You can grab a 5-hour energy shot to stay alert to watch all of your favorite games, or if you stayed up late to see that intense overtime game, you can take a 5-hour energy shot in the morning so you can start your day. You can get in the zone with 5-hour energy shots. They give you a feeling of alertness and energy you need to kind of lock in, especially through the weekends, which are really, really busy. For me, there is zero sugar, a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. And then they have flavors galore over on their website: watermelon, grape, tropical burst, berry. Grape's my favorite, but you can try them all. You can also go and get 12 or 24 packs. You can mix and match your flavors. I would encourage you to try every single one. They're all phenomenal. And if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid through September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So again, LOCKEDONCFB, that's your promo code to get 20% off over on 5hourenergy.com. All right, wrapping up the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you, talking about Baba Oladoten. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. The number 1 overall player in the 2027 class. That's right. We're talking about a very, very young recruit far down the road. I think we'll see things pick up steam, but I wanted this to be on everybody's radar today because Kentucky has given him an offer, a new scholarship offer, according to a Sea of Blue. 5-star forward Boba Oladoten announced his offer over on Instagram. He is a 6'8", 165-pound small forward, ranked as high as first overall according to ESPN. On3 has him slotted 6th overall in the 2027 class. Rivals and 24/7 Sports don't have an evaluation on him just yet, and he plays at James Hubert Blake High School in Maryland. The big thing about his game is his face-up ability to knock down face-up shots and his ability to knock down jumpers inside and outside the arc. At 6'8", at 15 years old, incredible fluidity and mechanics shooting. He played, actually, if I'm not mistaken, on like a Team Durant circuit. He played for Kevin Durant alongside a bunch of other high-profile high schoolers. He is the real deal when it comes to pure scoring. Somebody that I think could be elite and electric to watch in a Mark Pope system, running up and down the court, finding him beyond the arc. You can find him inside the arc for dunks. He would be 3 or 4 years from now, somebody I think Kentucky fans would be really, really excited about. Apparently, he is receiving offers from just essentially everybody and their mother already, and he's a 2027 recruit. Texas, UCLA, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Indiana, Michigan, USC, Louisville, Cincinnati, Ole Miss, Florida State, and Virginia Tech already on this kid, offering him. He is somebody that I think we're going to need to continue to monitor. Potentially the next Kevin Durant, plays just like him as far as his shooting ability goes. I have loved all the highlights I've watched just as far as watching him being just a pure scorer. So let me know what you think in the comments below about Boba Oten and Kentucky basketball's recruiting. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDawe_. You can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.